something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, and live from the heartland right here in the shadow of Detroit, kicking out of the brand new hour here on the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, which always makes me ask, who do you want in your foxhole today? Big day ahead, a lot of work to do. Let's get right to it. Here are three big things you need to know. Former President Clinton snubbed his nose at a congressional subpoena to appear and testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not hearing the left howling about justice for the victims. Weird. Where's Bill? Number two, more great numbers for President Trump in the economy on Tuesday as he arrived at the Detroit Economic Club. Huge growth and low inflation. I'll have a lot more on that coming up a little bit later. And number three, we're starting today with a history lesson because we must. A walk down memory lane where I've got the receipts, the proof that President Trump is not the radical extremist that the Democrats pretend he is, that once upon a time they applauded and argued for the very common sense policies, in fact, the very same policies he's fighting for now, the ones he's taking action on, especially when it comes to the border and taking illegals out of this country. How about their most recent display of performative outrage over President Trump's removal of Venezuelan narco dictator Nicolas Maduro from power? Democrats are out chanting for the U.S. to free this homicidal maniac. And Democrat politicians are blasting Trump as reckless, calling him a kidnapper, and anything else they can think of that's insulting. But let me remind you of what the criticism used to look like. Here's a tweet from Joe Biden during Trump's first term. He writes, Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with the people of Venezuela and democracy. And of course, Biden did absolutely nothing except pretend to be tough. Here is his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, announcing a bunch of slaps on the wrist after Nicolas Maduro stole yet another election. Here it is.
Maduro once again demonstrated his complete disregard for democratic norms and proceeded with his illegitimate inauguration. As President Biden emphasized during his meeting with President-elect Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia on Monday, January 6, we believe that it is essential that the will of the Venezuelan people is respected. In coordination with our partners, we've given Maduro and his representatives every opportunity to restore democracy, but they haven't. So today we are building on all of our previous actions and taking further major actions. We announced new sanctions on key Maduro-aligned officials as a part of our efforts to hold them accountable, and we imposed more visa restrictions totaling nearly 2,000 individuals. We also increased the reward amount to $25 million for Nicolas Maduro and his so-called Minister of Interior.
Yeah. So the Biden administration labeled Maduro as illegitimate, said that the will of the Venezuelan people needed to be honored and placed a bounty on Maduro's head, $25 million there. But they're stomping mad that Donald Trump actually did something about it. When I saw the pictures of Maduro handcuffed and blindfolded aboard the USS Iwo Jima, sure didn't seem like Trump admired him as Biden claimed. The Democrats can't pick a talking point and stick to it unless it's orange man bad. Trump is bad no matter what he does. Before Trump derangement syndrome was a thing, it was pretty commonplace to acknowledge that illegal immigration was not good. Let's go back 30 years, okay? This was President Bill Clinton's State of the Union address, one that he got a standing ovation for. Let's go back. Here it is.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants. but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
We must do more to stop it. Now, wait a second. Isn't that something only a fascist would say? I mean, that's what we've been told for a decade. But if I go back just 20 years, Democrats still had the common sense about illegal immigration. Here's the Democrat savior and golden child, Barack Obama, in 2007 on this very topic. Listen.
I think we should have strong border security. It doesn't make sense for us to allow hundreds of thousands of people coming through our borders without us knowing who they are, oftentimes in very hazardous situations and unmonitored situations that could do us long-term damage. I think we should have a serious employer verification system where employers, when they hire somebody, find out what their work status is. Are they able to work here legally? Right now, what employers will say is, well, we check their Social Security card. That's the best we can do. So we've got to set up a tamper-proof system and then hold employers accountable. You pay a fine, you learn English, you stay out of trouble, you've got a job, you go to the back of the line so that those who came here legally, that backlog is cleared before you have opportunities for citizenship. That is a reasonable approach, and one that will ultimately address the biggest problem for American workers, and that is the depressive effect of undocumented workers.
Learn English? Go to the back of the line? Throw people out for committing crimes? Another fascist right there in front of us. Keep in mind, he was campaigning for president in 2007. This was considered a winning talking point. And his opponent and fellow Democrat Hillary Clinton was spouting the exact same talking points to thunderous applause. Back to the time machine.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
Yeah, learn English. Get to the back of the line. Racist, fascist. Who are these terrible people? All of that would be ridiculed today. And it is ridiculed today and attacked today by the very same people who supported Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. They attacked Donald Trump for saying the exact same thing and actually doing something about it. Trump isn't a radical. It's the Democrats who have become radicalized and swung so far left, they can't even repeat the same things they were saying not that long ago. It is absolutely remarkable. I'll have more evidence from the time machine about the dishonesty of Democrats. They don't care about policy. They care about one thing, power. And they'll say anything to get it and to keep it. I'll be right back. All right, let's continue right down this because this is an important understanding. They don't care about principle or policy. They care about power. They'll say anything, and they will shift in any direction if they think it means that they'll get some power back. In 2006, Senate Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, all voted for the Secure Fence Act, authorizing hundreds of miles of border fencing. During his presidency, Obama deported more people than any prior president and supported strict enforcement paired with reform. 5 million people or more were deported during Barack Obama's time in office. But now I'm supposed to believe those very same people when they tell me that Trump is a threat to democracy for actually making good on the promises that they made. They made the promises to the American people. Trump delivered on it. So how about China? Democrats have long criticized China for currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, and unfair trade practices. In the early 2000s, Chuck Schumer repeatedly called for tariffs on China. Barack Obama targeted tariffs on Chinese goods, yet when Trump did the exact same thing in his first term, they called him reckless. But here's the real kicker. When Biden took over in 2021, he quietly kept almost every single Trump tariff in place on China. China still bulldozed over Biden anyways because they knew they were dealing with a patsy. So Trump has been forced once again to do something about it. And once again, they're raking him over the coals for it, even though this is what Democrats used to sound like on the issue of China.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons.
Yeah. There's Nancy Pelosi. Seems that she's conveniently forgotten all the things she said and all those reasons. That's the Democrats for you. All bark, no bite, no intentions to follow through on their moral grandstanding. And they'll find a way to criticize Trump no matter which way he goes. Because this again, Chuck Schumer more recently in 2017.
President Trump has promised many times to crack down on China, and still 10 months into his administration, his Commerce Secretary is once again needlessly delaying a preliminary step in that effort. Every time I see Secretary Ross, I've known him for 30 years, he's a New Yorker like I am, I say to him, when are we going to do something on China? Oh, we're going to do something tough. And each time there's a different excuse. This should have happened in the first 2 months of the administration. It hasn't. So, because of the Republican inaction, because of the president's unfulfilled and rapidly becoming broken promise on being tough with China, Senate Democrats will be sending a letter to President Trump and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross demanding that the administration keep its promise to crack down on China's unfair and predatory trade practices.
Yeah. Spare me the outrage, please. In 2017, Schumer was so bold as to send a letter. A letter, how scary. But now that Trump has cracked down on China's predatory trade practices, they're mad that he's doing what needs to be done. It's exhausting keeping up with these people. They're the same way about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. They want us to cry over how we've slashed funds to the money laundering operation that was USAID, or canceled contracts that had nothing to do with American prosperity. They've gone so far as to label Trump a murderer because he's not going to prop up gender identity programs in Latin America. But Democrats were sure proud of their fearless leaders like Clinton and Gore, who promised, well, the very same things. Here it is.
How to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
By paying for these plans, first with cuts in government waste and efficiency, second with cuts, not gimmicks, in government spending, we'll prove that we can spend the money we have in an appropriate way and stop wasting so much of it.
But over the next several months, we will be looking at every other agency and program, asking the direct question, do we really need this agency? Do we really need this program?
20 years into a period in our history where most American wage earners are working longer work weeks for stagnant wages. It is outrageous for the government to have rules and regulations which take those people's money from them and spend it on things that cannot be justified.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending.
They didn't do a better job. Trump did. They sound exactly like him. The difference is that Trump actually delivered on his promises. And Democrats are mad about it, which is why I just can't take them seriously at this point. Neither should you. How can you take any of that seriously? More to come. Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity, and cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing? House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, they don't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. They're after the equity that you have built in your home. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title of your home into their name using documents they file at the county and then take out loans against it or even sell it behind your back. The scariest part is you don't even know that until the foreclosure notices start hitting your mailbox. But by then, the damage has likely been done, could be irreversible. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid if the worst happens, restoration services at no cost to you. You can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure you're still in good standing. That's right, you'll also get a free history report on your title and a 14-day trial of the $1 million triple lock protection. That's right. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Use the promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com. Promo code Gruber. Get set up and have peace of mind. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm watching these developments out of Iran. Look, there's a lot of things happening right now. And when these protests started in the streets of Iran here more than 2 weeks ago now, I thought, well, it'll probably fizzle out after a few days. It has not. It has grown to 200 cities across Iran. The NCRI says more than 3,000 Iranian civilians have been murdered, shot down. And what's different about this is that those in the streets are undeterred. They're willing to stand there and risk getting shot rather than live another day under this repressive regime. It's opening up the door for Saudi Arabia to become the influential leader of the Middle East completely. Saudi Arabia and Iran have had a competition for 25 years now as to who would be the most dominant nation in the Middle East. Iran, I think, could topple. It would be remarkable. You know, I was telling Ivy last night, I remember clearly 52 hostages, 444 days. Not released until noon on the 20th of January, 1981. when Ronald Reagan took the oath of office. They feared him. They did not fear Jimmy Carter. Sound familiar? President Trump now saying he's watching the situation closely. When he got home from Detroit yesterday, he answered questions on the tarmac and gave every indication that the United States might get involved in some way. That doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it might mean Predator drones. It might mean real action. It might be real response to put Iran on the track to become part of the family of civilized nations again. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Carrie Sheffield is going to join me from the Independent Women's Forum. A lot going on. She can address it all. And we're going to talk about it with her, whether it's Venezuela, Iran, the economy, everything that's going on. All right. And of course, the border, ICE agents. You know, 2026 off to a pretty quiet start, right? Yeah, nothing to talk about here. Carrie Sheffield next on The Steve Gruber Show. I want to jump right back into it with Carrie Sheffield, the senior policy analyst, that is, at the Independent Women's Forum. Carrie, good morning. Good to have you here. Quiet start to the 2026 new year, right?
Very demure.
Yeah, very quiet. It started with the ouster of Maduro, of course, the ICE actions and so forth. But as I was talking about just before I brought you on, I thought this Iranian uprising would be like the others. It would last for a few days. Some people would lose their lives, they'd be martyred, and then it would go back to the status quo. But it doesn't look that way to me. What are your thoughts when you see all of this video and these headlines right now?
Well, I'm hoping and I'm praying that the people will get their freedom, because that's what the people are saying they want. And they've been saying this for a while. I mean, you're right, Steve, that we've seen these uprisings. I mean, I remember dating back even to 2009, just in recent history. There were these protests and people putting, I think that they were putting up, purple or blue thumbprints, saying they wanted a free and fair election because they know that they don't actually have that. And then there have been others over the years, and then they just get crushed. And so we'll see what happens. I think it's great that President Trump is encouraging these protesters. I also want to say, here at Independent Women's Forum, we put out a statement in support of these women, because the last time this happened in Iran, it was around a young woman who was basically, the account is allegedly murdered for not wearing her hijab correctly. And it sparked this backlash against the so-called morality police. And so you're seeing it this time around, where you have young women who are holding cigarettes, and they're with the cigarette butt lighting photos of their alleged great leader. And so I think it's showing a remarkable courage for these women to do it, and they're sparking courage among all the people of Iran.
Well, let me ask you about Democrat women for a moment. Democrat women are the ones that seem to be most opposed to Donald. Educated white women, Democrats, liberals, far left. If Donald Trump takes action in Iran, they'll be flying Iranian flags by morning. Don't touch Iran. They'll fly Venezuelan flags, Mexican flags. It doesn't matter. It is bizarre. We just did a history lesson at the top of the program where we played Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Chuck Schumer, all talking about how we had to secure the border, how we had to be tough on China, how we could not allow Maduro to continue to run roughshod over his people. And Donald Trump has done all of those things. And at every step of the way, led by liberal white women, the Democrats have attacked. Every step of the way. What has become of the Democrat Party?
It's interesting. Malcolm X said that a white liberal is so much worse than a white conservative because they think what they're doing is right, and they're so misguided, and they don't really care about outcomes. They just think, because they have supposed good intentions, that they are morally superior than everybody else. When it comes to women, we talk with a lot of women. We're not here to demonize anybody, but again, I think there's a lot of our education system in the United States has really sadly brainwashed and failed to teach history to not only America's women, but America's young men as well. But the young men, Gen Z men, they're not having it, which is a nice thing to see. So there's a lot of education we need to do for liberal women to help them understand. Bill Ackman, for example, recently tweeted out Harvard Yard completely empty, crickets in the face of thousands of Iranians being murdered. And they don't care about the brown people of Iran, because they supposedly care about non-white people in Palestine, but not in Iran. People who are risking their lives for their freedom.
And not in Venezuela either. Not in Venezuela, not in Iran, not in any of these places. It's remarkable. You look at these protests against ICE, another example. I don't see any black people there. I don't see any Hispanic people there. I see a bunch of white folks, usually 65 and older, most of them women. It's kind of a strange thing. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit here to the economy. Donald Trump was at the Detroit Economic Club yesterday. I was there with him. He had a very positive message, all the things he's doing. And you just released a column that you wrote. The Independent Women responds to inflation, wages outpacing price growth. Look, 5.4% increase in GDP. 2.7% inflation. Donald Trump says he's going to not allow institutional buying of single-family homes. He's going to cap for 1 year credit card rates at 10%. I don't know how any of these things will work out in actuality, but he's trying hard to put the American taxpayer first. What a revelation. And look, the economy is doing better. Has it reached everybody? No, there's a lot of damage to be undone. But tell me about your column, and tell me about where you think the economy is today as we sit here.
Sure. So our statement, we looked at some really encouraging trends. So, for example, the headline talks about how wages are outpacing inflation, which means that families are feeling that in their pocket. On average, real wages plummeted by $3,000 under Joe Biden, and real wages under just this first year of President Trump are up by $1,300. And then you have multi-year lows in gas prices, mortgage prices, and rent prices have hit multi-year lows. So it really is the president. He had a playbook in his first term economically, and within the first year, we're seeing him bringing that back, and people are benefiting because of it. And so I think that the fact that he was there in Detroit to let folks know all of the good news is really important. And I think what's also important is this question of affordability. I think it's something that conservatives need to point out because that was, I live here in Virginia, and unfortunately we have a new governor who's about to be sworn in a couple of days, and Abigail Spanberger is going to be our governor, and she was beating this drum of affordability and saying that, oh, conservatives don't care about affordability. The thing is, you can't go back and blame Joe Biden, even though he had a 20% inflation, which was record. We hadn't seen that in a generation, but voters don't want to hear you blame the other guy. And I think what Trump did by going to Detroit is very forward looking, and reminding folks, hey, maybe you are feeling, not gaslighting people and saying like, no, you're not feeling an affordability crunch. But I think the important thing to point out is that it's Democrat led states that are at the tip of the spear for increasing prices. So President Trump's White House economic team, the Council of Economic Advisors, they put out a map showing how inflation on average in blue states is 3%, but it's only 2.5% in red states.
Yeah, it is remarkable. And it's going the right direction. When you see gas at $2.49 here in Michigan, some places it's $1.99. And he talked about that yesterday. Energy is so critical to this country. We need vast quantities of cheap energy for the American economy to hum the way it is. Chris Wright, the energy secretary, I think is doing a fine job. And Donald Trump is moving away from this pseudo-religion of Earth First nonsense and the Green New Deal to economic policies that make sense. 30 seconds for the last word to you, Carrie.
Well, one thing we're very encouraged about President Trump and prices is healthcare prices. So, and even this week, as HHS Secretary Kennedy highlighted what happened last week by the Medicare and Medicaid services under President Trump. They have put out a new rule that is going to require the prices posted upfront when people shop for medical care. This is going to be revolutionary in prices because it will force the hospitals and the doctors and the physicians and the healthcare providers to compete for care, to have transparency, and there's going to be actual penalties for not complying.
IndependentWomen.com if you want to read more from Carrie and her team there at the Independent Women's Forum. Great stuff. Carrie, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Greatly appreciate. God bless you. IndependentWomen.com. You can find out more from Carrie Sheffield. Brilliant. Brilliant she is. Used to work with her. I know her well. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. A lot of big changes, as you know, at Health and Human Services when it comes to the things you eat, the medications and vaccines we give to our children. They got rid of the food pyramid. Thank God. It's been upside down my entire adult life. And when it comes to vaccines, they reduced the required vaccines, or recommended vaccines, I should say, from 79 to just 11. I think they're both great steps forward to keep people healthy. Dr. Alejandro Diaz is the chief of pediatric medicine at the Wellness Company. Joining me now to discuss these. Doctor, nice to see you.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great to have you. Look, the food pyramid has been upside down. It said things like 9 to 11 servings of pasta and rice every day. I mean, that just converts to sugar. We have a sugar problem, and I really like the fact that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, in no uncertain terms, we are declaring war on sugar. It's about time, isn't it?
I think it's one of the most incredible advances in nutrition wise. And we really echo and thank Secretary Kennedy because, we get for decades our kids addicted to sugar. So now with this new pyramid, before it was the regular pyramid and then my plate, and now the real food, which is more based in protein, animal protein based, meat, chicken, fish, uh, healthy fats, dairy products, and also not unsaturated or polysaturated or super processed foods. So I think this is the new way to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, that's the way I've eaten my whole life. We eat real butter. We eat ribeye steaks. We eat real vegetables. All this processed stuff that kind of looks like food and tastes like food, but really isn't food in the center of your grocery store. That's not food. They're food-like products, but they're so highly over-processed with salt and sugar and preservatives. I mean, I can't believe anything good comes out of those boxes.
Many of the diseases that we have been encountering for the last 4 decades are food related, Steve. So, from autoimmune diseases, from allergies, asthma, even cancer are food related diseases, among other things like microplastics and things along that line. So, this new pyramid, I think it will just bring a lot of health and a healthier society to the United States.
I agree with that. The other big news out of HHS, the reduction of the number of vaccines recommended from 79, I think was the number, to just 11, which means we're still going to look at the basic childhood illnesses, the basic childhood vaccine schedule. But this is also a step forward. I mean, 80 shots for kids, including things like Hep B before the kid is even a day old. I mean, these things, I think that a lot of people made a lot of money, but I don't think the kids got healthier. Do you?
I am 100% agree with you. As you know, Steve, I'm a pediatric allergist, immunologist, and I've been in clinic for 35 years. And I've seen these diseases rises up until they started to bring all this crazy schedule of vaccines. And I am very, very proud of Secretary Kennedy that he has been brave enough to change that schedule of vaccines and reducing the number of vaccines. We know the link of neurodevelopment disorders as well as autism and so many other problems with this huge amount of vaccines. So we will start to see a healthier community within the next 10 years.
Yeah. It's pretty clear, Doctor, that Health and Human Services, under the leadership of Bobby Kennedy, is willing to break with the failures of past and chart a new way forward for the health of this country. What are some of the next steps? I mean, these are good steps, but what would you like to see happen?
Well, definitely, to be honest, more conscious doctors. We need to invite more physicians out there to understand that, food, it's a very important process of health. And just to try and get more holistic approach with our patients instead of the huge amount of medications and full of prescriptions. Invite our patients to go and do exercise, to get sunlight, to get their supplementations and things along that line. More exercise tools. Now with this food pyramid that they're going to change the food at schools and hospitals and prisons and all the places. I think this is a phenomenal change. We will see a healthier community within the next very couple of years.
Yeah, and real quickly, it's January, and we're having a pretty tough flu season. I got a couple of the folks in my household, a lot of folks dealing with it right now. Hospitalizations at a 30-year high, 45 states reporting very high levels of the flu. What do you recommend for people to get the flu for early treatment?
Well, definitely at the Wellness Company, we have the Contagion kit, which is an amazing kit that has all the antibiotics, antivirus like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, oseltamivir, budesonide, the nebulizer, and things along that line that will help everybody who is dealing with flu symptoms. That this season probably has been the highest 35 years of practice.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult flu season, to say the least. Doctor, really appreciate your input here today. All of these things, by the way, available from the Wellness Company. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Now, as we have seen, this new administration in Washington bringing positive changes, as we just discussed, when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. But the reality is there's only so much the government can do. Making America healthy again starts at home with you and me. And that is where the Wellness Company comes in. You see and hear from TWC doctors like Dr. Diaz. And you know their products are the gold standard for keeping you and your family safe and healthy. The Wellness Company helps you prepare for whatever happens with their prescription medical kits like he talked about, which include life-saving medications and easy-to-follow guidebooks for proper use. They also offer a wide range of products from ivermectin to methylene blue to weight loss solutions, all designed to help you stay healthy and live a longer, stronger, more satisfying life. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part. Protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/Gruber. Order today. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10% right now. twc.health/Gruber. Order today. That promo code is Gruber. Again, you'll save 10%. Stay healthy, America. We've got a country to save. I'll be right back. This is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. We're going to be, I'm diving into this Iranian thing. You know, if not for Elon Musk, let's just give credit where credit is due. If not for Elon Musk, we would have no idea what's going on inside of Iran. Starlink, making it possible for some information to get out. Not a lot, but some. Donald Trump has cut off all communications with the Iranian regime at this point. He said he's all done with it. And he's not going to entertain what they're doing. I just saw an estimate out of Iran. It's not 3,000 people, according to some observers. They say the streets are lined with bodies. I saw an open-air morgue, if you will. And it is heartbreaking. Maybe 20,000 is the number. Are Democrats going to stand against Donald Trump responding to that as well? That's my question to you here today. Will the Democrats stand up? As we demonstrated off the top of the program today, Democrats will say anything for power and privilege and control. One year they'll say they're for border security. Donald Trump puts in border security and they say Donald Trump's a terrible human being. They say they oppose the dictator Maduro. And when Donald Trump takes him out in the most remarkable way with not losing a single American life, they scream that he's intervening in a foreign country where he doesn't belong. When Donald Trump goes toe-to-toe with China, they scream about it, even though they have said that China has practiced unfair trade practices, currency manipulation, and everything else for decades. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter. Give me the QR code for YouTube, would you please? This YouTube code here, if you ever want to see the interviews that we do here, you want to watch the program live, this is the place to do it. YouTube, right there is your QR code. Just click on that. We're growing that community. Great conversations in there as well. Love the folks on Getter as well. Don't want to, forget about my good friends on Getter. But YouTube is the growing place to be where we're putting up all sorts of things. And later today, we've got a very special interview on the brand new Forgotten America podcast. That'll be live today and then available on YouTube. Again, click the QR code and you can have access to all these and so much more. Real America's Voice, MTN Networks, working hard for you every day. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome back as we kick off another big hour here on the program, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Glad to have you on board as we put America first. Three big things this hour. Number one, some states trying to prevent federal law enforcement from being able to do their job, finding illegal aliens and arresting them. They're filing lawsuits, but they won't go anywhere. Another performative act by the left. Number two, speaking of performative, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz showed up to testify in front of Congress Tuesday, and boy, was he in the hot seat because of all the fraud being exposed in his state. Tim Walz is in big trouble here. And number three, I was going to talk about the economy and Donald Trump's visit to Detroit, but to be honest with you, I can't look the other way from Iran right now and everything that's happening in the streets. We had the National Council for the Resistance of Iran on a couple of times recently, including yesterday. They estimated 3,000 people killed in Iran. The official numbers come out are a couple of hundred, 300. It's not true. I've seen posts on, and we'll only know this when the smoke clears, literally. I've seen posts on social media here this morning indicating it could be thousands of people killed thus far. Thousands, literally. And it's a lot worse than we're knowing. And I thank Elon Musk for having Starlink. Otherwise, we get no information out of Iran. They've shut down all internet services. They're trying to keep it quiet, but they have lost control of their country. 200 cities seeing protests. More than 1 million people in the streets in Tehran alone, we're told. 92 million people live in Iran, and most of them want freedom. They want liberty. They want what you have. The chance to speak out and be heard without being murdered. Here's some video that we just pulled, Anthony pulled for me, of what's going on there. Just take a quick look at the bodies in the streets. And this is what indicates that there are a lot more people dead. Look at it, just bodies, bodies, bodies. This is Iran today. And if Donald Trump does something to protect the people there, how could you stand against that? They're being murdered in the streets. They are unarmed protesters. They have no way to defend themselves. But they're at the point that they don't care. They will die rather than live in chains any longer. Look, breaking chains is painful and bloody and obviously dangerous. This photographer able to get this video out, and it's just one after another. I hope it's not upsetting to you. But what's upsetting is the fact that if Donald Trump does do something, he will be maligned by Congress. Well, you didn't have permission to go protect these people. America has always stood for human rights. America has always stood up to tyrants, whether it's Maduro or anybody else. If you crush your civilian population, we'll do something about it. That's the policy. And remember when they accused Donald Trump of being isolationist? That he was only going to isolate America and we wouldn't be able to do anything. Really? Wrong again. Wrong again. So when he got back from Detroit yesterday, the president took some questions about Iran and several other topics, but I want to focus on Iran. Like I said, here's part of what he said.
For the leaders currently of Iran.
Yeah, the message is they've got to show humanity. They've got a big problem, and I hope they're not going to be killing people. And I'm going to have a report very soon. It would seem to me that they have been badly misbehaving, but that is not confirmed.
And I sit here and I hear him say that, and I say, where's the United Nations? The United Nations has one job: stop genocide and war. Stop killing. That's the job of the United Nations, which they have failed miserably ever since their inception. By any metric, the United Nations is an abject failure at the one thing they're supposed to do: stop people from getting killed. Whether it's in civil war or outright war or genocide or a country killing its own civilians because they can't stand to be under the yoke of tyranny any further. Here's more from Donald Trump.
Iran says that retaliate in the instance of U.S. strikes against U.S. assets in the Middle East. What do you say to U.S. service members about why it is worth the risk to intervene in Iran?
Yeah, Iran said that the last time I blew them up with the nuclear capability, which they don't have any longer. So Iran said that the last time. They better behave.
And during his visit to Detroit yesterday at the Detroit Economic Club, I was there. Very optimistic speech about the economy in 2026 and the growth and all of that. He also took time out while he was touring the Ford plant to speak to Tony DeCouple. He is the new anchor of the CBS Evening News. Seems to be on the right path, this young man. We'll see where he goes. But again, on the subject of Iran, here is the back and forth yesterday in Detroit.
Now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
How do you define that in Iran?
Well, let's define it in Venezuela. Let's define it with al-Baghdadi. He was wiped out. Let's define it with Soleimani. And let's define it in Iran, where he wiped out their Iran nuclear threat in a period of about 15 minutes once the B-2s got there. And that was a complete obliteration, as it turns out, which is what I said initially. Then some questioned it, and they said, Trump was right. So we've been right about everything. We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
It's not going to work out good. Look, Donald Trump is being crystal clear here. There's no ambiguity here at all. That doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it does mean tools like Predator drones. If they can find al-Baghdadi, they can find the leadership of the nation of Iran. It'll be quick and vicious. I'm telling you right now, we will have action in Iran. It's almost certain based on the comments of the president. When he says something, believe him. When he says we're going to protect the people of Iran, believe him. The Iranian people, 92 million strong, a few thousand less today because of the actions of its own government. But 92 million people screaming to be free, screaming for women's rights, screaming for the right to not be oppressed and run over by a minority. The rejection of this regime after 46, 47 years, it'll be 47 years in February, I believe, tells you that these people want to be free, and they're demanding it. And they have an ally in Washington. Donald Trump's going to act. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. I'll take a break and be right back. I've mentioned it a couple of times today, but without Elon Musk and Starlink, would there be any videos coming out of Iran? I don't know. I find it unlikely. They're trying to shut down all internet service. They're trying to keep what's happening there, the execution of its own citizens, a secret from the world, but it is getting out. Arnie Bellini is a cybertech CEO and multi-millionaire cybersecurity school founder. Arnie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
How important is it, this release of videos from Iran? Look, we played video here just at the top of this hour. The estimates being put out by the country are a couple of hundred people killed. The NCRI, the resistance of Iran, says 3,000, but now I'm seeing reports of it could be multiples of that. And we have video of people laying dead in the streets all over Iran. It is horrifying. Donald Trump says he's going to do something about it, but what about this high-tech leak that's possible right now to get this information out?
Well, first of all, there's probably more like 12,000 people who have been massacred in these protests. The bodies are lining up outside the hospitals. The hospitals are overrun. They cannot handle it. Yeah, we're seeing video footage that's coming in from Starlink, and they're trying to jam that as well. The Russians are in there trying to jam the frequencies for Starlink, and so it's a cat and mouse game. So you're going to see spotty coverage coming out. It's really crazy what's going on there, but I think the greatest news that we have here is we got a president that does not play around. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. We've seen it in Venezuela, and I think we're getting ready to see it in Iran as well. We've got a lot of cyber capabilities. In fact, if you look at that Iran war, it was only 12 days, but it was only 12 days because of the amazing cyber intelligence and cyber espionage that both the Israelis and the United States were able to do well in advance of the 12-day war. So what's interesting is we have lots of ways in digitally into Iran. We already figured it out before the 12-day war, and we're going to be leveraging all of those access points and Trojan horses that we've got inside of their country.
Arnie, you're exactly right about Donald Trump. In fact, I've been saying it for weeks now. If Donald Trump says it, you should pay attention. He doesn't make idle threats. He doesn't bluff. He doesn't put in sanctions that have no teeth. He says, if you cross this line, it's real. And when Donald Trump stood on the tarmac yesterday after returning from Detroit to the nation's capital, he said, if they're killing people, because today the threat is they're going to hang prisoners in public from cranes. They're going to hang people publicly to try to intimidate the masses, which doesn't seem to be working anymore. Donald Trump should be taken deadly seriously, shouldn't he?
Yeah, you know, Iran just suspended due process on all of these protesters. They're allowed to go straight to trial, almost like an administrative trial, and they will be put to death. So, I mean, just for going out on the street and protesting, you can be put to death if they capture you. So it's getting crazy, but they have no choice. The regime is falling, and it's falling quick, and you cut off internet access for two reasons. You don't want the outside world to see what's going, but you don't want, the main thing is you're trying to get your citizens blind to what's going on and inability to communicate with each other.
Yes.
And so that's what the regime is trying to do. But I mean, they'll be gone in 2 or 3 days is my prediction.
It's close. And when this whole thing started, Arnie, I thought, well, we've seen this before over the last 46, 47 years. And I remember like it was yesterday, the 444 days with 52 American hostages. I mean, I remember that when Ronald Reagan took the oath of office, they were released and they were into international airspace almost immediately. But you mentioned China and Russia meddling here. China and Russia, the left can say what they want, but Donald Trump is throttling them. By taking out Maduro, he removed China and Russia from South America effectively. The process is full speed ahead right now to get those folks out of the Western Hemisphere. If he takes out Iran's leadership, he's crippled them again because, look, Iran, Russia, and China are all in cahoots together. It's another blow to Beijing and to Moscow. Beijing, more importantly to me, I consider them our number one threat on the planet to everyone, not just to America. How important do you see these steps in scaling back China's Silk and Road Initiative and everything else?
Well, it's major. By the way, in that group of three, you left out one of them, Rocket Man, okay? So North Korea as well. So, and, you know, if you look at the United States list of foreign adversaries, that's who the list is, okay? There's a reason they're on the list. Every one of those nation states has laws that say that every one of their citizens has to cooperate with intelligence gathering with the government. Okay, so that effectively puts every one of their citizens as spies, all right, of every one of those 4 nations. So I'm not really sure why we're letting them come to school here. I'm not sure why we're letting them work here in the United States. I love the Chinese people, the Russian people. I don't know any North
Me
Korean
as well,
people.
but I agree with you on
does.
that, Arnie. I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything, and one of the things I have an issue with is allowing 600,000, 700,000 Chinese students to come to the United States and continue to do that. And he says, well, if I don't, these universities are going to go bankrupt. Well, so be it. If your business plan for EVs is to collect money from taxpayers to pad your bottom line, that's not a business plan. You're a business guy. That is fleecing the American taxpayer. If your plan to prop up universities that have raised their prices to ridiculous levels is to take foreign money, that's not a good plan, and I don't agree with that.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, we're changing that in Florida, right? I'm sponsoring a bill in the Florida legislature to actually stop that from happening, at least in our critical colleges and our critical institutions of learning, where we do research and we figure out ways that the United States has an edge on everyone else. We don't need to be giving that edge to everyone else. Right now, this is ridiculous. We're getting ready to watch the Super Bowl, right? Imagine in the Super Bowl if the opposing team was allowed to come to your sideline and sit there and listen to everything and then go back over to the other side and tell the coach what's going on. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. How do you expect to win that particular contest against China? It's like, we're doing that with China. We're doing that with Russia. I cannot understand what we're doing. But let me say this. China's in bad shape. Their economy is in very bad shape, okay? True. And so they're going to get very desperate. They're going to do just about anything, and they are very good at cyber espionage now.
Well, let me make another prediction. I'll make one more prediction before you go today, Arnie, and that is that Dictator Xi is also at the end of his tenure because he's in trouble. Anyhow, Arnie, I like smart people just like Donald Trump. You come back anytime. Anytime.
I will.
I appreciate the conversation, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve.
There you have it. You know, here's people. You bring on people that know something about what's going on and share it with you. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. All right, I want to note the passing this morning of Scott Adams, cartoonist, creator of the Dilbert comic strip. A guy who fell out of favor with the left because he was an unabashed supporter of President Trump, who in the last few years, he was suffering from cancer. He was emasculated, he was really beat up, and he passed away yesterday at the age of 68. But his social media posts were unapologetic, pro-American, pro-Donald Trump, and so therefore he was targeted by the left, as you can imagine, and they went after him hard, claimed that he made racist comments in 2023. So much did they make an uproar that the Dilbert strip was canceled in large part in newspapers and so forth around the country in 2023. Not that there are many newspapers left in this country that matter anyway, but it happened. And I just think that Scott Adams was a poster child for the American dream. He made a cartoon. He made a cartoon and made his fortune. And then stood on his principles and didn't back down and didn't apologize, just told the truth. And at the very end of his life, gave his life to Christ and made it public because all of his friends were saying it's not too late. He said, I'll know soon enough. Scott Adams, 68. NeuroGuard Plus is a revolutionary mouthguard engineered to reduce impact forces and help safeguard athletes from the hits you can predict and the ones you never see coming. Perfect for football or hockey or wrestling or girls basketball. The amount of concussions in girls basketball is remarkable. You want to find out more about this mouthguard because if you have a son, a daughter, grandchildren, whatever it might be, keep their head in the game. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Give the gift of confidence, protection, and peace of mind. Like I said, keep your head in the game. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10% on this wonderful product. NeuroGuardPlus.com. And like I said, I don't promote something we don't use. My son's used it for football for years. 0 concussions. I'll be back. I'm going to say something here that you might agree with, you might not, but I believe more every day that when Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion and was laughed at, oh, he's going to lose all his money, it'll be out of business, he changed the trajectory of this country and Western civilization because people were free to go back out and tell the truth without being silenced or canceled. And I know that because my next guest caught my attention with the video she was putting up, explaining clearly the things that we're challenged with, clear, level-headed common sense. And I'm like, I really like her. And I said, Sarah, go find Susan Kokinda, the author and organizer of Promethean Action. And she joins me now. Susan, good morning.
Good morning.
It really is a pleasure. And your take is so common sense. It's so logical. It's like, how can anybody listen to this and not get it? And so one of the things that really caught my attention, you were talking about Davos, and I was with the president in Detroit yesterday at the Detroit Economic Club, and he talked about going to Davos. And he's not going there as a pawn or a puppet, as previous members of the administrations have. He's going there, in your words, to deliver the terms of surrender. Explain to the folks what you mean.
Well, I think since Trump has come in this term, where he's had a free hand, where he's put together a cabinet which knows what they're up against, which he certainly didn't really have in his first term,
right.
He's just going all out. And as he said in a number of key documents, policy statements that were released in December, the National Security Strategy and an obscure little document called the Financial Stability Oversight Committee Annual Report, he is putting the globalist system on notice. We are no longer going to be fighting your perpetual wars. Our foreign policy is based on our sovereignty, not your transnational agenda. And he says that explicitly in the National Security Strategy.
Right.
And then in this other document, it was very subtle. But in Scott Bessent's introduction, and I know Bessent was with the president yesterday in Detroit and got high praise from the president. What Bessent says in that introduction is we're no longer prioritizing the financial health of these big institutions, of the big banks. We're now prioritizing household income and the real economy. Now, these are fighting words when you're talking to the Davos crowd, because their entire reason for being is we are the top financiers, and the world is supposed to simply be,
beholden. That's what they expect, Susan. They expect the world to be beholden to their demands. And look, you see these members of Congress go from being worth nothing to being worth millions of dollars. They are beholden to these paychecks that they seem to have coming in almost endlessly. But Donald Trump is upending the financial markets. First of all, he said no more institutional buying of single-family homes. He talked about that in Detroit yesterday when I was there. He also reiterated his idea of capping interest rates on credit cards at 10% for a year, saying even Jamie Dimon can't charge 30%. It's not right. It's loan sharking to the American people. He said it's not appropriate to charge people who are barely getting by 30% interest on their credit cards. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, what he's really saying is, as that one document says, we're going back to an economy which is based on real production and human beings, not where everything is simply an income stream for a big financial parasite. I mean, the other thing he's very adamant on, of course, is the question of the health insurance companies who've gotten obscenely rich. And, they make a ton of money. They impoverish the population, and your health gets worse anyway. And what has Trump said? No money to the insurance companies. I mean, you'd think all the Democrats would be lining up behind him, but of course they all have TDS. He says, I want the money to go directly to the American people so that they can decide what's best for them. So he's, if you think of each one of these bigs, big pharma, big tech, big ag, big banks, and so on, think of it like a parasite. And it's just been sucking everything out of us, really, for the past 70 years. But the 50 years, it got worse under NAFTA. And
he's
Trump
knocking him down. Great list you just gave, because he's knocking him down one at a time. Just last week, Big Ag got punched in the mouth with a new food pyramid. Big Pharma got punched in the mouth when he said, we're not paying those prices anymore. Big banks are going to get punched in the mouth with these changes of what they're allowing. And these big corporations, BlackRock, State Street, the others, no, you can't buy single-family homes anymore and run the price up and compete against a couple that just want to get their first starter home. We're not going to allow that anymore, and that's good news for everybody. I want to touch on something we talked about just before you came on. The Trump base. Donald Trump is the most popular president in his own party in my lifetime. Something like 90% support with the Republicans. But here's the problem, and I see this, and I saw it in the midterms of 2022, and if we see it again in 26, we're going to have a problem. It's not the never Trumpers that are the problem. It's the only Trumpers. If Donald Trump isn't on the ballot, they don't show up. And how do we change that? Because they have to show up. In Michigan alone, where I live, in 2022, 1 million people that voted for Trump in 2020 did not cast a ballot in 2022. Oh, Donald Trump's not on the ballot. It doesn't matter. It matters more than ever, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I actually ran for coalition's vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party and won last March on precisely this midterm message. If Donald Trump isn't at the top of the ticket, his policies have to be at the top of the ticket. And you have to have a unified message coming from everybody running for office on the Republican ticket that they are behind Trump's strategic policies, and especially that they are behind Trump's economic policies. I mean, I'm in Michigan too with you. 22 was a wipeout because we let the Democrats set the agenda. And it was all of the hot button social issues, which are important. But what it takes to actually get the low propensity Republicans and all of the independents and Democratic crossovers who voted for Trump in 2024. Here in Wayne County, it was the blue collar workers and the Muslim American voters in Dearborn and Hamtramck and so on that made the difference in Wayne County. Those are the layers you've got to get out to vote again. And Trump's economic message that I'm fighting to turn this back into an economy which serves working people, blue collar workers, where one income can raise a family again,
right?
Which was the hallmark of Detroit in the 1950s and 60s, where we had the highest per capita income in the country. And it wasn't because we had millionaires. We had blue collar workers.
That's right.
Had a decent wage and benefits and have the stability to know that their kids would have a better future than they did. Trump is committed to bringing this back, and everything he's done in this short 11 months has already done that. You heard him say yesterday at the Detroit Economic Club that wages for construction workers are up $1,800 a year and factory workers $1,000, and it's just started.
That's the message that has to be delivered. And Susan, I appreciate it. We have to stop there for today, but I want you to come back. The messages you are putting out on social media are incredibly important, especially for Michigan. I see the midterms, and Donald Trump and I have talked about this on several different occasions. He believes Michigan is ground zero in this election. He believed it in every past election. I believe it too. We have to take the Michigan Senate back, the House, and win the governor's seat at a minimum, and maybe get an extra member of Congress. Susan Kukinda, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, folks, what do you think? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. All right, back into it now. Again, I'll take your emails, stevegruber.com. If you got a big story in your part of the world, send it along. We'll look into it. I'll put my team at MichiganNewsSource.com on the job, and you just never know what might happen. But we're always digging for the facts. That's why Chris Ullman is here, the Eagle Forum president. Chris, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you this morning. Good morning, everybody.
You're out there fighting to prevent taxpayer funding of abortion. How did we ever get to this point in the first place? It was always agreed that taxpayer money would not go to abortion. It was agreed for decades, and suddenly the Democrats are all for taxpayers paying for abortion, transgender operations to convert or attempt to convert men to women, women to men, and all this sort of nonsense. Look, this is a misuse of taxpayer dollars, in my belief. You obviously feel the same way, and you say there's no flexibility here. Give me your point of view.
Exactly right. You know, when it comes to the Democrats, what they don't want to ban, they want to make mandatory with your taxpayer money. So when it comes to federal funding of abortion, it's been the law of the land since 1980, and a compromise between pro-lifers and pro-abortion folks that we would not have federal funding. It was something called the Hyde Amendment, and that applies to Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program and all those things, except for the Obamacare subsidies that are sold on the market. And there was a big controversy at the time it was passed. There was actually something called pro-life Democrats, which we don't have anymore. But they got an agreement from Obama that he would put out an executive order that said that you couldn't use federal money to pay for abortion under Obamacare. He did that, but there's these great big loopholes in the law that actually allow the funding. So as these subsidies, the additional subsidies expired at the end of this year, the pro-life community said to President Trump, who is pro-life, you need to strengthen these pro-life protections in the Obamacare law. And the Democrats went nuts and said, no, we won't. They said, this law does not fund abortion, but we won't clarify that the law doesn't allow funding for abortion. So that we know what that means. It means that the law funds abortion.
It certainly does. So what do you do now? The Hyde Amendment basically got trashed after all those years. How do you push back? You're never going to, you make a great point. You're never going to get a single Democrat on board with this, not one. Because even if they are pro-life secretly, if they're closet pro-life people, they'll never vote that way in public because it'll lose an election for them. They'll get run out of town immediately, won't they?
They'll get primaried if they vote pro-life. Absolutely. I mean, we're going to see a lot of Democrats get primaried by Mondami types anyway. So, you know, I just want to clarify that the Hyde Amendment still applies to Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program and other programs through HHS. The only thing it doesn't apply to is the Obamacare program. And even if you buy a pro-life policy, some of your money is going to states like California and 14 other states that don't have any pro-life policies on their state exchanges. We all know money is fungible. And that is why we're really encouraging the president to stand firm on this and to require, Eagle Forum, we don't want these subsidies extended at all. We think the Obamacare is not the Affordable Care Act, but the Unaffordable Care Act, and we should just get rid of it. But if it's going to continue, we need to have these strong pro-life protections. Thankfully, the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader of the Senate, the majority of Republicans in Congress are demanding these pro-life protections. So what we need is for people around the country to call your member of Congress, especially if they're Republican, and say, you have to keep these pro-life protections. They're only going to respond to public pressure, to people saying, as you talked with your last guest, we're just not going to go out to the polls in the midterm if you abandon the unborn. And that's our big fear, is that we're going to lose the House and Senate because the Republicans gave up on life.
Well, I think that's a concern, but I don't think we're going to lose the Senate. But the House is incredibly important because Donald Trump's entire presidency and all the things that he's doing to fight for the American worker, to fight for common sense, to fight for life will be out the window. 100%.
Yep.
So
Yep.
And I was just talking this with my last guest. Here in Michigan in 2022, 1 million people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020 didn't vote. They're only Trump voters. We've got to get rid of that mentality. If you don't give him the support in Congress and in governors' mansions and in state legislatures, what was it all for?
Well, I think I would encourage all your listeners to think about what will happen in 2027 if the Democrats get control of the House and if Republicans lose seats in the Senate, or don't pick up additional seats, because we have a very slim majority right now. We will see impeachments. We will see the end of any of the Trump conservative agenda get passed. Uh, Thankfully, I heard yesterday in a meeting with the speaker and others that the president is planning to go out on the campaign trail and remind his voters of these very same facts. But people have to realize, if you stay home, everything you voted for in 2024 is really gone. We know, listen to the Democrats. They will tell you what they want to do.
Yeah, they'll tell you
They want
exactly.
to impeach Trump. They want to raise taxes. They want to, impede our ability to be self-sustaining when it comes to energy.
All true.
All these horrible things, not
Yeah.
just on life, but the entire agenda is at risk.
That's right. Chris, I got to leave it there, but you're exactly right. Chris Allman, Eagle Forum president. If you're an only Trumper, I beg of you to make the effort. Most of the states allow you to do a mail-in ballot. I don't agree with that, but if that's the way we get your vote into the box, then do it. Chris, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks. I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you so very much. All right, we'll take a break here. I will be back with Brock Paulbush in sports after this. All right, let's jump in with sports and Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There is now a 9th head coaching opening in the National Football League as Mike Tomlin stepped down from his position as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday afternoon after 19 seasons. Tomlin never had a losing season with the Steelers but lost his last 7 playoff games, including on Monday night to the Houston Texans 30-6 in the AFC wildcard round. There were 7 games in the NBA last night. Winners included Miami, Golden State, the LA Lakers, and Oklahoma City. In the National Hockey League, the Tampa Bay Lightning won their 11th straight game with a 2-1 shootout victory over Pittsburgh. Other winners included Boston, Winnipeg, and Utah. In men's college basketball, second-ranked Iowa State was upset by Kansas on the road, 84-63, but third-ranked Connecticut, 7th-ranked Houston, and 8th-ranked Nebraska all won. And in women's basketball, 17th-ranked Texas Tech beat Houston 71-59. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right. Well, the question is, will silver hit $100 an ounce today? Looking at it, good Lord, it's at 92. It was at $77 on Friday. I was going to buy some, and then I didn't. And here it is, $15 an ounce higher. Dumb. Anyhow.
What's your prediction? Crash or keep going?
You know, I've been talking to my good friend Tom Colson. He says, I don't know. He says he doesn't like it when things go this fast, this furious. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. I got guys here telling me it's going to be $600 an ounce. I don't believe that. But I don't not believe it either. How about that, Anthony? What if it's $600 an ounce?
I don't know, man. Who? Tom Colson with LibertyCoins?
He didn't say that. No. He didn't say that. I'm just reading different people making predictions. But look, some people think the ratio is 50-1. Well, right now, silver's at the 50-1 ratio and still going hard today. It's up $5 an ounce today. Who knows, right? Gold could go to 10,000. Right? That would put a 50-1 ratio at 500, right? I think, right? Or is that 20-1? That'd be 20-1. Anyhow.
So are you buying?
No, I'm just sitting here thinking, man, I wish I'd bought a lot of it at $30. So it is. We'll take a break and be back. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court and the discussion on transgender issues yesterday. Very telling. Very telling. I'll be right back. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And welcome to another big hour here on the program, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. We do it every single day, standing shoulder to shoulder with you, telling you the truth so you're the most educated audience in media today. Three big things this hour. Number one, the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, calling the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement action and the killing of Renee Good unconscionable and murder because the AFT works to undermine President Trump every step of the way. And number two, Donald Trump was in Detroit yesterday talking about the economic upturn of the United States. It's doing well. And number three, at the Supreme Court yesterday, the justices hearing cases about transgenderism and whether or not transgender individuals are being treated unfairly when it comes to men and women's sports. This is a 90-10 issue. A 90-10 issue. But they really nailed it, the coffin that is shut on this issue, when Samuel Alito said, well, what's a woman? And the lawyers for the ACLU either could not or would not answer the question. He says, how do you have discrimination if you can't define who's being discriminated? If you can't define what it is over here, how can you have discrimination over here? You have to hear this for yourself to truly appreciate it. Here it is.
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court. And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute, Lindsay qualifies as a birth-sex male, and she's being excluded categorically from the women's teams as the statute. So we're taking the statute's definitions as we find them, and we don't dispute them. We're just
no answer. Gobbledygook and garbage. But a new legal argument, brilliant by Samuel Alito, define for me what a man and a woman is so we know who's being discriminated against. We have no definition for you, Your Honor. So you have no definition of the very thing you say is being discriminated against. How do you discriminate against something if you don't know what it is? You know, it's dangerous to read tea leaves when it comes to the Supreme Court. Ketanji Brown Jackson, again, showing that she is inept at the job. This should be a 9-0 decision. It should be. I'll be shocked if it's less than 6-3. But I'm going to predict 8-1. We'll see. We will see. But the 14th Amendment of the United States passed in the wake of the Civil War for equal protection. And that was for recently freed slaves. Can you imagine those folks looking forward 150 years and saying, you did what? You think what about our amendment to the Constitution that has to do with men competing against women in sport? They'd be appalled, as they should be. As they should be. Meanwhile, the fake outrage on the left about the Epstein files continues. It's fake outrage. How do I know? Well, they keep saying, well, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. There's no evidence Donald Trump had any inappropriate interactions with Jeffrey Epstein. None. He threw him out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out what a pig he was. What a dirtbag he was. He threw him out. It was Bill Clinton's picture on the wall of Epstein's mansion in Manhattan. The big picture of Bill Clinton in his blue dress, which Anthony, by the way, thinks he posed for. Maybe he did. Maybe Bill Clinton posed for that picture. Don't know. I think it says that I've got you. Jeffrey Epstein saying to Bill Clinton, I've got the goods on you, pal. Here's the painting to represent that. But Bill Clinton didn't show up yesterday. He was subpoenaed, and they kept changing the dates to appear in front members of Congress behind closed doors, not even in public, to answer questions about Epstein. Now, Donald Trump's answered questions numerous times about Epstein. Says, no, I didn't have anything to do with that. Bill Clinton has never answered a question about Epstein, still has not, snubbed his nose at the subpoena. James Comer, the chair of the Oversight Committee, not impressed with that behavior. Here he is.
Unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Yeah, good job.
With that, be happy to answer any questions real quick.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody on the committee?
Will you roll out bringing Donald Trump in for an interview?
Well,
in this investigation?
President Trump has answered thousands of questions about Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, I would say today, well, you all ask him questions every day. He answers questions every day about Epstein. Well, you can't bring in a current president of the United States, and you all know that. So, but President Trump has answered thousands of questions about Epstein. I bet today, at some point, some of you all will ask President Trump questions about Epstein. He answers those questions. To my knowledge, former President Clinton has never answered questions about Epstein. And we just had questions because, again, I think anyone would admit they spent a lot of time together while Bill Clinton was president and post-presidency.
Certainly did. Certainly did, but the media, the complicit, compliant, left-wing media, doesn't ask about Bill Clinton and why do you want to ask him questions? What about Donald Trump? You can ask him questions? You can ask him questions too? Bizarre. Truly bizarre. A new year doesn't need extreme diets or complicated routines. It needs consistency. Longevity Wellness helps you build that habit with one clean, all-in-one nutritional shake that supports strength, focus, digestion, and immune health. It is smart nutrition you can actually stick with. Start strong today. Visit longevitywellness.co and use the promo code Gruber for a special listener discount. That's Gruber at longevitywellness.co. We use that product in this house every day. It's full nutrition, 25 grams of protein, colostrum, all the things you need, and all from natural sources, not some contrived, laboratory-made nonsense. It's real nutrition. Longevitywellness.co. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll get a special discount today, and you'll thank me for it later. I'll take a break and be back with Ron Rademacher. You'll thank me for that, too, when it's all said and done. I'll be right back. All right, let's jump right back into it. Take a deep cleansing rinse. It's like jumping into Lake Michigan in January when you have this guy on. It's shocking to the system. Well, maybe not that bad. But Ron Rademacher's here anyway. Ron, how are you?
Steve, it is going to be shocking later today. The temperature's falling once again. Welcome to winter in Michigan. You know, we just had our January thaw. Now we got our after-thaw freeze. It's terrific out there.
Well, it's snowing heavily at the studio here at the moment.
It has been snowing here, and they're happy about that up in Marquette because this weekend they have the 139th annual Suicide Hill ski jumping contest. This is the 100th year where people have survived this. 90 meters, so, you know, that's quite a long way, 300 feet. And they get up there on skis and rip down this thing and go flying through the air. I think it'd be good for you to try that sometime, Steve.
Yeah. Can we have the meat wagon on standby? Have the ambulance sitting right there?
That will be there. That will be there. So that's 100 years they've been doing this, and people are still surviving. And more snow and cold weather. If you don't want to do that, I don't know if you've ever tried this. I have not, but I'm hoping to try it this year. They have that luge adventure over in Muskegon where you can get on a luge and rip down that baby. They've got
Same question. Will the meat wagon be standing by? Can I have an ambulance ready to go?
I believe, and I'm not sure on this, we're still checking, but I believe the beginner's class includes one free cast.
Yeah.
So that
one free cast, signed and everything. Yeah. Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
I found something here. We were talking in the break about gold and silver.
Yeah.
And you said the mining company stocks have not followed suit, but in fact they have. Mining company stocks are up 400%. 2 to 400.
In what period of time?
Over the last 12 months.
Yeah, the last 12 months. Yeah, the last 12 months. But if you look at what's been going on in the last 60 days, they haven't had the run up that the metals have continued to have. Yeah, the last 12 months, some of them. A good one to watch is Hecla. They're up in Calumet. They produce silver. They produce copper there, of course. And they're right close by, so it's easy to get news on what's going on. They also, of course, operate mines in other parts of the world. So that's an easy one to keep an eye on.
It is. Hecla's up 66% in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
66%.
So, as we know, I'll just put it to you this way.
It's volatile.
Go along for the ride, but what goes up will come down.
That's a fact. All right. It's just a little side road there in Michigan back roads. All right.
Speaking of coming down, how about Brighton? They've got their duct tape derby going on. Now, here's another one for you, Steve. You get your cardboard boxes together, your duct tape, you slap all it together, you make yourself a sled, and you go ripping down the ski hill over in Brighton. I mean, everybody is doing this dangerous stuff.
Again, Ron, same question. Where's the ambulance?
Same question.
Look, gravity is undefeated, all right? Gravity is undefeated in the history of man, period.
Wiser words were never spoken.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a little bit of, there's one you can do this indoors. Detroit, the Outdoor Adventure Center has their bow hunting 101 classes this weekend. So if you don't want to get out there and rip down a hill, there's another one coming up too. It's not this week, but I just want everybody to pray for cold weather because the Dam to Dam ice fishing tournament is next month over at Croton Hardy Dam. And we need good solid ice. Otherwise, that event will not be able to take place.
Yeah. Where is that one?
That's in Newaygo, the Croton Hardy Dam.
Well, you can't talk about that. It's not on my list.
Oh, well, no. We like to throw you a curveball every now and then to make sure that you're paying attention.
We have an approved list here, Ron, of adventures that we can talk about. It's not here.
Then we can talk about the World Tour, which continues this weekend in Kalamazoo. I will be there with Bob the Turtle for the Outdoor Sports Expo. I mean, you're going to see fishing boats like you've never seen. Outfitters from all over the world are there, custom lure makers, dog trainers, trappers, bow guys who make custom bows. It's a great show and a big show. If you have spare time.
You know, not to nitpick, and because I don't want to be that guy. Right, but not to nitpick, but you failed to mention the outdoor bar at Brighton for the people coming down that hill.
Oh yeah, I did. Yes. So there, as I said in the cheat sheet, there is that. So if you have to wait for the ambulance, you can be medicated.
Yes. I'll take a double. My bones are sticking out, literally. Yeah, that's a problem. Bit of an issue. Let's see here. Did you mention Rockford?
I did not mention Rockford because I thought we were going to have you worn out. Have you ever watched that big adventure race on television? They have where these people go ripping across it. Well, they're doing this down in Rockford, and so you can run and you can snowshoe and you can ski and you can do this stuff on trail and off trail, and this goes on for a while. I think 2 or 3 hours. This race goes on, and they expect 475 people to show up to compete. You have to pay to do this. They don't pay you to come and do it, Steve. You have to give them money.
Let's see, run, ski, snowshoe, on trail, off trail. Wow. These are some tough souls.
Yeah, and you get a zip pullover and you get a chili lunch that you can have while you're waiting for medical care.
Yeah.
Once again.
All right, so it's also this time of the year, boat, RV, hunting shows, polar bear plunges, all of that stuff going on right now, right?
It is great out there, man. It is great. And I don't want to hear anybody complaining and just, it's like 75 days till spring. So get out there and do it. It's almost over.
It's almost over. It's not over here today. Ron Rademacher, everybody. If you would like to be featured by Ron, and who wouldn't, let's be honest, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. Your event, your death-defying act can be featured right here.
You got a lot of them.
Yeah. Ron, God bless you.
Steve, good to talk to you.
You make me laugh, Ron. I appreciate that. You put a smile on my face, my friend.
That's the idea, baby. That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Now get out there and get on that ski jump.
I'll take a double. We'll take a break and be right back after this. All right, I'm watching. I continue to watch as we have throughout this program the possible demise of the regime in Tehran. And where do you go? Where do you flee to if you're the Ayatollah or anybody else as part of that regime that's killing its people indiscriminately for protesting right now? Some estimates, as you heard today, 12,000 people dead. Some say it's higher than that even. Hard to get official counts, but we saw the videos, we played them here earlier, of the bodies lining the streets in Iran. 200 cities with protesters, 1 million in the streets of Tehran alone. And so I believed for the first many days that this would be one of those events that would come like it did in 2007 and 2019 that would be suppressed. They would kill enough people that they would be fearful of what would happen next. Today, the government of Iran says it's going to hang people publicly from cranes in the cities. Hang people publicly in an attempt to intimidate the populace. Doesn't seem to be working. Fear is no longer a factor. When you are abused for for a long period of time. The fear doesn't work anymore. The intimidation doesn't work anymore. Give me liberty or give me death. That is basically the battle cry right now in Iran. Give me freedom. Give me liberty. Give me the right to choose my direction in life, or I'm better off dead. These people are rising up knowing there are bullets flying. But they've been so oppressed, so abused for so long, they don't care anymore. That's the way it looks. This seems different to me. Very different to me. And we're going to keep an eye on it for you because they might not make it through the week. The regime in Iran might not make it through the week. That's my best guess. When we come back, we'll have State Representative Mark Tisdale of District 55, Rochester Hills, Michigan. He's got a new cell phone bill we're going to talk about. It's coming up. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your kids? We'll talk about it straight ahead. All right, we're going to renew a conversation that dates back. This conversation dates back to September 2024, when my next guest was first on the program saying we need to get cell phones out of schools altogether. I agree. Their distraction out here in the wild In school, how could you ever focus? First of all, these kids are too distracted by their devices anyway, mine included. Heck, I'm too distracted by them. Mark Tisdale here. He represents Michigan's District 55 in the State House from Rochester Hills. Mark, welcome back.
It's good to be back, Steve.
Fifth time. You're like a gold card member here.
I'm waiting for the frequent flyer rewards to come flowing through my mailbox.
You have won a coffee cup, sir. Congratulations. The Steve Gruber Show official coffee mug is now yours. I'll make sure it gets sent along to you. All right, so this is serious business. It's been up several times. The Democrats said they would support it and then didn't last time around, as I recall. What about today? It's going to get another vote today, right?
Yes, and the last time around, I was assured by members of the leadership team on the other side of the aisle that support was there. On that particular day, we didn't have 56 members from my side of the aisle there that would be needed to pass it, and so they decided, maybe to exercise a little bit of their political muscle on that vote.
But why? Look, explain to the folks what your bill is, and then we'll try to figure out the conundrum of why they wouldn't vote for it. Go ahead.
Well, the bill prohibits smartphones during instruction time K through 12. And that's the gist of it. There are other issues in there that allow if it's medically necessary, if it's part of an individual education plan, those kinds of things that the federal government requires. But when you're in class, in an effort to learn, to become educated, the cell phones have to be turned off and put away. And there's all sorts of ways of managing that. Why the other side of the aisle decided to vote against it back in July? Maybe it was just one of those opportunities to rub the speaker's nose in it a little bit, to remind everybody that on occasion Democrat votes are needed. I don't know why.
I don't know either. Look, I think everybody, Democrats and Republicans, parents agree. Put the phones away. Look,
it's a 70% approval issue.
Right. It's not even a close call. Put the phones away. You're in school. You don't need that here. Put that away. And yet they stand up and fight against it. So today, have you been assured again that it's got the votes? And do you have 56 folks in their seats today?
Well, yes. We're expecting every Republican member to be there today. And again, I've been told by members of the leadership team on the other side that there's plenty of support. I would anticipate that once we get to 56 votes on the board, there could be anywhere from 80 to 100 yes votes on this, just because of the nature of the issue and the popularity of the issue.
You're still going to have no votes. Who would vote against this and why?
Well, some people simply don't like sending mandates from Lansing to local governing units. My answer there is, when you count academies and the charter schools, there are 886 school districts in the state of Michigan. If you're going to wait for all 886 to design, implement, and enforce their own cell phone policy, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Yeah. Mike Duggan said one of the reasons he left the Democrat Party, and I don't know if this is true or not, that's what he says. I'll take him at face value on this. It was because of this vote. He said, look, this is a 75% issue. I stand with the parents, and I'm going to run as an independent for governor here in Michigan. So, I mean, look, he's a Democrat no matter what he says, but he left the Democrat Party in a protest, I suppose, to say, look, I'm not putting up with this. And here we are, right?
Yeah, that statement was a surprise to me, and I've told my friends on the other side of the aisle, any high-ranking Democrat that wants to use my name as a reason to leave the party, they're welcome to.
Fly the flag, Tisdale for freedom. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. What else do you have on the horizon? I had a chance to see Speaker Hall yesterday at the Detroit Economic Council there where the president was speaking. Obviously, Republicans under his leadership have had some success, to say the least. Trimmed $3 billion out of the budget, not as much as you would like, but a step in the right direction. And I think that based on the conversation with him several times and you and other members of the Republican Party, you're pretty optimistic about November, aren't you?
I am, yes. And I was in June of 2025, I was asked by the speaker if I would take a look at redesigning, redeveloping the economic development plans as we move forward in Michigan. And in November, I submitted to our leadership team, along with Representative Mike Hoadley, who's chair of Economic Competitiveness Committee. I'm chair of Finance. We've submitted a 10-point plan. I've submitted a legislative outline of what would be needed to implement that 10-point plan. And we have to start. The days of a industrial economy in Michigan are over. We had a globally transformative technology developed in this state that we owned for a long time.
Yep.
That's dissipated. We have to open this market back up to entrepreneurs and creativity, make this the easiest place in the state to start and run a business.
Well,
it's
the
a
only way you
cold
get
weather
there,
state. We can't change that.
I don't know what's in your 10-point plan, but I'll say the only way you get there is to get rid of the income tax, number one, completely. I mean, Michigan was the only state in America in the last couple of years to raise income tax that I'm aware of. You have to compete with Tennessee and Florida and other places. The only way you do that is to eliminate income tax, like 9 other states have done. Otherwise, we're not going to be competitive. I mean, Indiana and Ohio eat our lunch every day because they're more competitive. You got to lower regulation. You've got to lower taxes. You've got to fix the roads. We talked about that before you came on. Do have to do that. I mean, you drove in today, probably knocked your fillings loose a couple times. Because that's the way the roads can be. Anyhow,
My crowns.
Yeah, there you go. So,
Steve,
I think you're on the right track.
Say, our corporate income tax in Michigan is 46% higher than the average of the top 10 population inflow states.
Right.
Our electricity is 35% higher. Now, in November of 2023, we quadrupled the renewable source portfolio requirements for our electricity.
Absolutely asinine. I got to leave it there for today, but that's absolutely asinine because driving up energy costs also drives down competitiveness. There's no question about that.
You're not going to move here for higher corporate income taxes and higher electricity and say, and try and recruit talent from around the country to a cold state with schools in the bottom 10.
Absolutely agree. Mark Tisdale, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. As always, we'll talk soon.
Take care.
There you have it. He got in early today, battled the snow and the roads to get there just for that, which I appreciate. Ivy, up next here on the program. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, tough day around the office. Tough day around the office. Everybody's sore. They're getting back into that weightlifting and going to the gym. Anthony's sore. Ivy, she's sore too, but she's a soldier. She's here for us. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
So, getting worked out. Sarge beating you up yesterday.
Oh, man. After holidays, which, it generally people gain weight, I maintained weight. But, being off for a few weeks and then being sick and then getting back into the gym, it's always kind of a tough transition.
But we're getting there.
Getting there. It's great.
And you got a smile on your face, so
Absolutely.
It's all right. What's on your...
I love being fit.
Yeah, what's on your list of things to do today?
So, I know you played this earlier about the Justice Ketanji Jackson's argument in favor of transgender rights. And I want to play that bite for you again, number 25.
Girls.
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition for equal protection purposes? What does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court.
How is that?
And we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can you...
So it actually goes on. There's some more that I want to just say here. So Jackson says, but they are prevented from playing on the team that matches their gender identity correct. And the attorney says that's the effect. So let me use your example from earlier. You said there's a cisgender woman. She can play on the team she wants. There's a boy who identifies as a girl. He can't play on the team he wants. That same boy and switch his gender identity, but say he still wanted to play on the girls' team. Say he was a very unathletic boy. He likewise could not play on the team. So this is the deal.
This is so dumb.
Bottom line, first of all,
this is so dumb.
Why is the Supreme Court even taking up this case?
Because they have to, because these states are out of control, and you've got these ideologues with black robes forcing us into this position. But Alito there, the soundbite we heard, him saying, how can you have discrimination if you can't define who's being discriminated against?
And that is exactly the point right there. If you cannot define what a woman is, how is there any discrimination at all? Because you can't define it. And the thing is, this is about biology, okay?
Yeah, pretty simple.
XX, woman. XY, male.
That's right.
You cannot remove that no matter how many drugs you put into a human body.
No matter how many body parts you chop off.
You want to chop off your wiener and sew your vagina shut, because that's what happens, or sew some potato sack on to make it look like you have a penis. These are the actually things that happen in gender transition surgery. Okay, that does not change the biology of your sex.
It does not.
And not only that, but as you get older, your hormones that are dependent and really make a big play on what your biological sex is matters. So you can pretend all you want. The bottom line is this is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you can wage war on the human body.
You can't. This is actually, to me, this is a war against women. Okay? You cannot allow a biological male in women's sports. You are erasing the rights of women. Period. Done. There's no argument beyond that. Because the fact is, they can pretend all they want. It doesn't change the biology. Men are going to be, and this is the thing, what if it's an unathletic boy? He's still a boy.
Right.
Okay? Boys stronger than women. Now, there may be cases that women may be stronger than men. Okay, but that when you're talking about competitive athletics, a man is going to beat a woman. Or they're going, like in the case of Riley Gaines, the biological male tied her.
And gets the medal.
And he got the medal, and he got the photography, and he got everything else. She got nothing. She's like,
Well, she
and
got
even the
something
NCAA,
yesterday.
you know, as they were given the trophy, she's like, well, why can't we tied? Why can't I have a picture with the trophy? Oh, from up above, they said that that
You're out.
you're out. You
Yeah.
don't get it. You don't get it.
Unbelievable.
And that is just how demoralizing to
Well,
a
as
woman
I've
who's
often
worked
said
her
here-
whole life to be a champion in swimming. Or you can take this onto anything that any kind of athletics.
As I've said many times here,
Ridiculous.
I feel badly for the Riley Gaines of the world that got knocked from first place to second place on the podium. I feel worse for the athlete that worked their tail off to become a bronze medalist and gets
Right.
pushed off the podium altogether.
It is a war against women, and it is unbelievable why we're even having this conversation. And I hope that Supreme Court let's put the nail in the coffin.
The 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was put in after the Civil War to make sure that black Americans, recently freed slaves, had equal protection under the law. Can you imagine those folks today saying, what do you mean it has to do with men competing against women? They would flip in their graves.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with protecting newly freed slaves from the vicious Democrats that wanted to keep them enslaved. That's what it had to do with.
How about we
Nothing else.
just create a transgender athletic club, and then they can go compete together.
Right, perfect. I have no problem with that. Do that.
Do that. There's your solution. Create a club and athletics just for the transgender folks, and they can compete together all they want, and you can have women, and you can have men, and you can have transgender athletics, and there you go. There's your solution. But anyway, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I do want to switch gears here, though, and I want to play another bite for you.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
If you want to do that, we're going to have to wait.
Oh, well, I don't have enough time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I need to be on longer.
Yeah, well, nobody's arguing with that.
Oh, goodness.
The people just went wild on YouTube, I guarantee it. Yes, we want more Ivy. Heck, I want more Ivy. I get it. Why wouldn't they?
All right, Steve. Well, podcast's being recorded today, so everybody tune in the future. We'll let you know when that's going to drop.
Yeah, the Forgotten America podcast. It'll be live today.
Oh.
I just don't know where to tell them. X? YouTube? I don't know. We'll figure that out.
All right.
We'll be right back. Love you.
Love you.
All right. It is the Forgotten America podcast coming up today. The Forgotten America podcast. It'll be at noon, and it'll be on YouTube for sure. We just had a little conference here. Live on YouTube today, so you don't want to miss that. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse will be our guest. You know him, of course. From the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting. He was on trial for his life. He was acquitted. And then he went into hiding for, 2 or 3 years. And he said he's coming back out because he said, I get death threats every day for defending himself. And we're going to get his take on where we are politically in America today. What's going on with, the attack on law enforcement by these radicals on the left that are just trying to interfere with law enforcement. Create chaos. They create chaos. And then scream about those trying to control the chaos and how they enforce the laws. It's absolutely maddening. They go out, stir things up. And even on CNN this week, they've had to admit that, some of these activists, and I use that term loosely, they're just agitators, not activists, are openly creating chaos, openly confronting ICE officers and Border Patrol officers, Customs and Border Patrol, creating this chaos and confronting them and touching them and pushing them and throwing things at them, rocks and bottles of water and snowballs and whatever they get their hands on, fireworks sometimes. The war on law enforcement and common sense has to stop. Has to stop. It does. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Until tomorrow, that is. Or noon. Don't forget us at noon. Forgotten America podcast. Me and Ivy will be there with Kyle Rittenhouse. Write that down. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.